Nick, there's two key things that I'd like to talk to you about. First one is the importance that vocational education and training can play in the educational landscape. And secondly, what role does industry have to play in that?
Yeah, well, I think really, as we've always talked about, industry is at the core of where we really need to go with education and employment in Australia. I think one of the challenges is that the education systems have churned out people who don't match the skills needs of employers. So by having employers engaged in the conversation and in programs like PTEC where they can sit around the table and actually be a part of the conversation as opposed to receiving a product from institutions, I think that's going to be the driving difference. And as we face this age of globalisation and technological change, the way we work and the way we learn are definitely changing. And I think a lot of employers, particularly astute employers, are really starting to look at their workforce strategies and saying, how can I attract a labour pipeline to give me the skills that I need to get the job done?
And are there any limitations into which industry areas can be going down this pathway, or are we looking across the board here?
Look, I think it's straight across the board, Patrick. I mean, there's not an industry that isn't being changed or impacted by globalisation, robotics, artificial intelligence. And I think that we're seeing a lot of roles changing, a lot of job roles changing, but it's the tasks within the jobs that are changing. Absolutely, some jobs are going to go the way of the dinosaur. But I think for many jobs, and particularly a lot of the vocational and technical trades jobs, I think we're going to see man and machine work a lot closer together. So it's really important to start that connection with students at an early age.
And how do we go about changing that messaging about it being university or bust that we hear so much of?
Well, I think this idea of perceptions and not reality. And Skilling Australia just produced a report that really dove into this issue to look at the different pathways that are available. And it actually turns out that vocational pathways are actually leading to the jobs which are needed by employers. In fact, 9 out of 10 jobs are going to require some form of vocational education and training. The challenge is that message isn't filtering back into schools, isn't filtering back to parents. So we need to find young people, ambassadors, and get them to tell their story. We need to get employers to get into schools and work on partnerships like PTEC at St Patrick's and really start to share what's going on in their workplace and let parents see what those pathways are. And I think the earning capacity is also something which really resonates not only with parents but young people. They want to know, where's this pathway going and what's the living wage going to be? And we're seeing a lot of the traditional university pathways not leading to the 6-figure jobs they used to. But one thing I can guarantee you is that if you learn a trade in a skills need area, you will earn six figures once you complete your apprenticeship.
And this isn't just an Australian phenomenon, is it? This is global.
This is a worldwide trend, and I think in this age of globalisation and as the world starts to come together, we're really seeing a lot of countries starting to be crippled by student loan debt. In the US, the student debt is $1.3 trillion. The average person has $30,000 in student loan debt. People in Australia have student loan debt, have a HECS debt, and that really cripples them when they're starting out in life. So I think if you have the ability to, the old cliche, earn and learn through an apprenticeship, and then you can potentially look at pathways towards university if you want to take on those studies. But it's about the right education at the right time. And for a lot of young people, going straight from school into university is not the right pathway. They want to get away from a traditional classroom and they want to use their mind, but they also want to use their hands.